who was used to packed houses had an empty room. Well, there are actually two people sitting in the far back at a table, seemingly ignoring the show. And we went, wow, there was something really important on TV that night, and nobody went out that night, and we played to an empty room with two people in it. And we said, you know, we're just going to play, and we're going to, you know, make sure we know all our new songs and do a bang-up job, and, you know, because, you know, that's what we do. Well, those two guys owned the record company that offered us our record contract. And that's why they were there to see the band and approach me afterwards and offer me a record deal. And the temptation was, of course, why bother even playing tonight? Those guys obviously aren't there to see us. And, you know, the club won't care because they're not making any money. But Etta James played for two people. And they're still, I would never say, I'm better than Etta James and she has to do it, but I don't have to do it. And that night I really, really, really was glad. I was really glad that I said, well, you know, Etta James plays for two people, maybe we should. But that had nothing to do with the lesson. That was just a really good example, really fast. You never know who's sitting in the room, but Etta James was better than everybody in the room. That's why she was there. She was there because she brought something everyone in the room couldn't possibly do. And it was no reflection on how good she was or how important it was what she was doing, that there was nobody in the room to see it. And even when someone ran around to people and said, you've got to see this, you got to, no one cared. No one cared. I'm sure the newspapers mentioned she was going to be there. No one cared. But one person was there and it was a life-changing experience. And maybe not at the time. Maybe it didn't even register at the time. But do a couple hundred shows where people aren't there, and it registers now. Because there's not a singer alive today that would say, except Aretha Franklin, that they're better than Etta James. That they're worthy of more than Etta James. They deserve a bigger audience. They deserve bigger hits. There's nobody alive that would say that. Interesting that it was someone who fell into that category. Because there's a lot of people that would say they're a better singer than Donna Summer. They're not. But they would say it. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people that would go, yeah, you know, like, you know, Beyonce would probably say she was better than Donna Summer. How's that for a segue for a pot shot I want to take tonight? But seriously, you think about all the other people, especially right now in the music world today. How many people are saying there was nobody like Etta James? Nobody better than Etta. Oh my gosh, she was the queen. She was the best. Oh my gosh. Well, okay, I'll get it out. For the record, I totally agree that it was a horrible decision of Mr. and Mrs. Obama to have Beyonce sing Etta James' song at his inauguration. And no, she did not. Etta James did not approve that. She was totally against it. She was vocal about it. She said if she ever sees Beyonce, she's going to kick her little ass. And it was an incredible slight against a living legend. It's like having Michael Bublé sing My Way when Frank Sinatra's still alive. Even if Frank Sinatra were in a wheelchair and had a stroke and couldn't sing well, we'd still rather have him do his song. And to not include Etta James, not invite her to the inauguration, not to do anything, was a profound insult by the president. And I'm surprised more people who, because let's be fair, people love this stuff, more people didn't get what a profound insult that was to black people in history. The people who've lived and died and never got paid for anything. Well, let's just give it to little Beyonce, who played Etta James in a movie that year, and put Beyonce doing it. I was just terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. And you know what? Beyonce may sing better at this stage in her life than Etta James did it at that time. She wasn't that person. She didn't live that life. She didn't live that experience. And to have a song called At Last about, you know, for the first black president in office, and to totally sidestep the obviousness of that song by someone who literally survived music industry slavery, who was still alive and sounding pretty good, was an insult. But no one would say they were better than Etta James. Maybe Beyonce would. If she does, she may have a very clean, pretty sounding voice. She's great. I never thought anything against Beyonce, but she's never had the School of Hard Knocks training that comes with a blues legend, and certainly not one of the caliber of Etta James. But Etta James is now a legend. She's now an icon. She's now someone that everybody who talks about her says things like, she's greatest voice. I wish, my favorite is, I wish I'd seen her live. Yeah, oh man. And what's funny is I'm going to read, people saying they saw her at Club Lingerie, and I'm going to contact those people and say, you did not. I was there, and I know you, and you weren't in the room. You weren't in the room. I mean, it was phenomenal. It was beyond phenomenal. It was a serious artist working their craft despite the obstacles. Makes for a great show. Taught me that no matter what it looks like, I'm there to do something. I'm supposed to be doing something. I'm called to do something. I'm born to do something. And again, I had an example. Believe it or not, there are things I think I do better than Etta James. There are. I can write songs. I think I dance better. I think I have better hair. I can pee standing up. And sometimes. What I can't do, I can't walk a mile in her shoes, or the shoes of anyone like her, and walk away with the artistic and professional integrity it took to perform in that empty room. I can only emulate the behavior as best as I can. I can only walk my miles. I can only take what gifts I have and use them to the best of my ability. But remember that Frank Sinatra stormed off stage when I was there. Elvis Presley stormed off stage when I was there. Barbra Streisand stormed off stage when my parents saw her. Etta James played to an empty room. And all the music biggies, all the famous living legends are saying she's just amazing. She's just amazing. Oh my gosh, she's so amazing. Well, Madonna, Beyonce, everyone else is saying all these great things about her. We all really can learn a little bit about life from the people we brag about after they die by what we thought of them when they were still alive. Because I have never heard anybody say anything nice about her. One person said something nice about her to me. Phoebe Snow, who most people know from the song Poetry Man, mentioned Etta James to me in a conversation once. But she didn't say, oh my gosh, Etta James is so fantastic. That was me talking. I said something to her, I go, so who do you hear on the radio today that sounds like they're totally copying your style? And she goes, I don't really do that, but I'll tell you who people say I sound like. And she mentioned Etta James. And I was like, okay, that's not, I went back and listened. She's right. I mean, Phoebe Snow is amazing. But I don't know if you've noticed, but I got a little idol worship going on here for Miss Etta. And it's not because I own all her records and listen to them all the time. It's because I was in that empty room with a stranger whose name I didn't know at the time, and was so moved by what I saw. So moved by what I saw. But now, this was 2 years before I would accept Jesus. This is 2 years where I would find out that one person really does matter. That one person has a soul. That you may not be able to reach the multitudes. But one person does matter. If you can get one person to listen to your testimony, one person may come to Jesus. And in this life, if every single person leads one person to Jesus, we lead all humanity to Him. That's the truth. But let's talk about performing in an empty room. Do you know that when Jesus was on the cross, nobody was on His cross with Him? Did you know that? Did you know that He performed a solo performance that night? Really? Do you know that? Do you know that despite how small the world was at the time, it'd be hard for us to count heads of how many people had heard Him preach during His hot days when it was standing room only, when He was Jesus Christ Superstar? But on His last night, He could probably count on one nailed hand how many people were still there for the show. Do you know how many ministers have done what I'm doing right now? But coming from me, I think it actually has some weight. I think it says a lot because I've been in entertainment all my life, and then I've been in ministry all my life since then. And all I've ever seen is how many people came. That's all I'm going to get. People are going to call me and say, how many people were at your show tonight? Do you know how rude that is? Let me tell you something. As pissy as my mouth is, Etta James would spit and punch a person the night I saw her. That's who I saw. I loved that. I could care less about anything about her except the way she attacked those songs. That's all I care about. The way she attacked them, the way her band, I just had to go, gosh, I'm in a crappy band. Now, I quit my band, by the way. I quit my band the night we got offered that record deal. I went up to them, they offered me a record deal. I go, would you sign me solo? And they go, yeah, great. I quit my band. We sucked. That's all I thought. I always thought we sucked. And I'm telling you, I saw a band that our shows were packed. And I thought we sucked. And I saw someone who was, by the way, as it turns out, a legend in an empty room. I said, I'm not there. I'm not there yet. You know, I watch American Idol, though after this year, I don't know. But they say things like, you know, you're not ready to record a record yet, or you're ready to record a record. I know the difference. That chick in the bar, the big black sweaty chick, she was ready to make a record. I was making one at the time, and I wasn't ready to make a record. I saw such a difference. Like, God, just like Elvis, I'm a hack. Notice I never once thought Elvis was better than me. But I sure thought B.B. King and Etta James were better than me. Because they were not looking at the brass ring. They were looking at their craft. They weren't trying to get their picture taken. They also weren't wearing, like, jumpsuits. What's that about? But you know what I mean? They represented to me an integrity that I needed to have. I went home and combed through my record collection and said, who are the artists that have the integrity I want to have? I don't think I called it integrity. I probably call it, you know, something an 18-year-old would use, like seriousness, you know? But it was that integrity. Who has that integrity? I'll tell you. Jesus has that integrity. Jesus played to the multitudes, and Jesus played to the empty houses. But He never stopped being Jesus. He never stopped being Jesus. He never turned to get His picture taken when he could actually just be Jesus. He never stopped focusing on his task. And forgive me if it sounds trite to jump to Jesus here, but I'm talking about my personal testimony, and my personal testimony was, while I was born Jewish, I was raised in the Church of Rock and Roll. That was my church, and there are a lot of people like me. There are a lot of people like me. There's, oh my gosh, at the movies, you can see operas at the movies now. That's amazing. You can stay awake. But it's amazing. No, seriously, even if you like them, operas are hard to stay awake for. Everybody knows that. Anything with subtitles, you're like, but you can have popcorn. But the ad for the opera series, the ad for the opera series has celebrities endorsing it. And Patti Smith, who everyone knows I'm a huge fan of, is one of the celebrities used to endorse it. And she refers to, it's like you're at a church of opera, to sit in a nice movie theater and have this experience. I mean, that's very interesting, because she's from the Church of Rock and Roll too. She was actually the high priestess of the church I attended all those years. That's the reality. There's a lot of people who made it through their hard young lives by holding on to music for dear life. You know, Patti Smith had a book called Babel of poetry. And I always said I carried Babel around until I started carrying my Bible around. And I wasn't being tried, it was a fact. I held on to it for dear life when I was being bullied in high school. I said, there's something outside of this for me. And then when I became a Christian, I found out what that was. It wasn't being a rock star, it was knowing why I was born. It was knowing my Creator. And I saw that for 19 years he had been trying to reach me, and he had been laying the groundwork for my future. So I would look back and go, oh, there you were, oh, there you were, oh, there you were. And not just in the car accident I survived, or getting held up at gunpoint and not getting shot, and the plane crash that didn't really happen, the fire I escaped. We all tell these stories. It was, remember that lonely night at Club Lingerie and you saw Etta James? I was the one who said, you should go to Club Lingerie tonight and have a few beers, because you're going to learn a lesson of a lifetime. That years from now, which feels like centuries, you will know something. You'll know something as an artist, you'll know something as a minister, that if you really don't get that one soul matters, you don't belong on stage or the pulpit. You don't belong there. And there's nothing in life that can teach you that without you learning it. And I learned it. I learned it from Etta James and Jesus at the same time. I also went back to that church a few times to listen to the rockin' band. And still, I've seen everybody. I've seen all my idols perform. You know, so I'll say with a straight face that, Etta James was better than David Bowie, man. I mean, seriously, all the people I've admired. That was a bang-up show. Saw a bunch of bang-up shows with Etta James. And you bet after that I sought out all the losers and has-beens performing all over LA in dive bars. Comedians, man, I saw Buddy Greco. I mean, it was crazy. No, not Buddy Greco. What's the name? What?
Hackett?
No, not Buddy Hackett. No, Buddy Greco's a singer. No, it was, oh my gosh, if you hadn't said that, don't say it. Who was Take My Wife, Please? Oh my gosh, Shecky Green. I saw Shecky Green. I had someone say, I'm in a horrible bar band and we're opening up for Shecky Green. I go, Shecky, Take My Wife, Please? That was amazing. Anyways, we become Christians and we pick and choose why we do that. I think most of us do it to save our souls. I think that's why we do it. I think we accept Jesus as our Lord and Savior to make sure that if we die today, we don't go to hell. But if we read our New Testaments, it seems that the purpose of knowing Jesus is broader and more expansive than that. And it's centered on performance. Sincere, honest performance in a word called example. Buddy Greco is like in the market like Tony Bennett. He's a big band singer and a very nice man. You never know who you offend these days. But he performs full time in Vegas still. But we become Christians, he said, bouncing back on track, with our own agenda. But Jesus' agenda is that we perform for him. That we perform for him. Not that we play our musical instruments and hope that he gives us applause, or or do our little monologues and win Academy Awards, but he wants us to perform acts of loving kindness so other people can see that he exists. Etta James knew she was going to perform at 8 o'clock at Club Lingerie that night. And she got there hoping maybe people showed up, but they didn't. But she's expected to play, so she played, and she played her heart out. She reached one person in the room, because that's all there really was to reach, and planted a memory of an example that would never go away. Never go away. Believe it or not, I saw Elvis play for 1/3 of a room one night. And he proceeded to get so drunk during that performance and so rude, because why bother? It wasn't packed. I mean, you could hear the distinction of each applause for Elvis. And it made him mad. We all have bad nights. I'm not going to say I've never ever been rude to an audience. I've never gotten mad or never, done something I regret. But nothing like that comes to mind. Nothing like that comes to mind. I think the bad examples and the good examples taught me you really need to be nice to your audience. The people who showed up are not at fault for the people who aren't there. I told that to someone today. I said, performers walk out on stage and they look out, the first thing they do is look out at the audience. They do not notice who's there. They notice who's not there. That's what performers do. That's just the way it is. That's human nature. I said, so you can't say it's not a big deal when people say they're coming and they don't show up. And, I think Etta James probably knew a lot of people in Los Angeles, I'm thinking. And I wonder how many people were on that guest list. You know what I'm saying? Well, none of them showed. I don't know. I'd be pretty mad too. Oh, I am really mad. But I saw someone say, if someone's willing to come hear me, they deserve the best of me. Well, I am convinced that that's the word of the Lord. That if someone is willing to hear your testimony, to hear some scripture, or to hear your song about Jesus, or just to witness your example, they deserve the best one possible. And most Christians only perform at peak level for a packed house. Most Christians only perform for a packed house. Very few Christians really walk through the market they forgot something for something they have to cook for a big dinner that night, when they go there first thing in the morning and they haven't had their coffee and they haven't brushed their teeth and they're mad at someone who didn't pick up this at the store and blah blah blah. Most Christians don't walk into situations going, I'm a Christian right now. And there is someone in my path that needs to know that. And I don't mean running around saying, I'm a Christian, I'm a Christian. But let's be fair. Madonna doesn't leave her house without knowing she's Madonna every second of the day. Saw an interview with Dolly Parton the other day. She says, the minute I leave my house, someone's taking my picture. I got to do my hair and makeup. It's a fact. It's funny. I kind of swing both ways. I either have days where I go, I know if I go out looking like this, that someone's going to know I'm Paisley and go, wow, you look a lot different in person. You're a lot older than I thought you were. Or I know all the time that I've set myself aside and put myself out as a representative of Christ. That Jesus knows who I am when I leave the house. So that I don't have the luxury of snapping at people. I don't have the luxury of cutting people off in traffic. I don't have this luxury because I am really convinced that Jesus has his eye on me. And that he's given me an amazing gift of my life. Not just, of my life, which I struggle with getting why that's a gift. But in my life, what I get to do in my life, I get is a gift. But it comes with a 24/7 responsibility that I'm not just Paisley when I'm being videotaped. But I'm Paisley 24/7. And while that may not mean hair and makeup, as soon as they write me up in People magazine, it will mean hair and makeup. And that's a fact too. Think about it. But, I mean, look at what Kiss went through. You make a choice, you make a sacrifice and say, I'm going to stand for this, but that means I got to protect it this way. Well, we say we're Christians, we need to be Christians. We need to be examples. We need to be on 24/7. Not just for the 2 hours for the empty room that I just praised Etta James for an hour, but I'm talking about the other 23 hours of the day because people are watching us. If any single person in your life knows you're a Christian, they're studying you. They're studying you. The exact same way I'd be waiting to see if Dolly Parton came out of her house without a wig on. The exact same way. I've seen Madonna out in public, wearing sweats and stuff, and, you're still Madonna. But, we don't leave them alone. And Jesus doesn't leave us alone. Jesus expects us to play the room. No matter what we perceive as the audience. And this is something so profoundly obvious when you think about it, and so often missed